Good evening and welcome to Channel 1 News Hour. I trust that you've had a lovely day. Well, here at KBC Channel 1, we have a comprehensive bulletin lined up for you. For now, we take a look at the highlights. Inspector General of Police defends deployment of a contingent of police to arrest Senator Malala.
The decision has been made that Jubilee will not field a candidate in the interest of the bigger picture.
Jubilee party pulls out of Msambweni parliamentary by-election, but DP Ruto says he had a different opinion. And divided opinion gains momentum over the dissolution of parliament as per CJ Maraga's advisory. Welcome to the broadcast. My name is Jacky, Wambiru, sign language interpreter. This evening is Lensa Odingo. Now, to kick us off, Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai has defended the police over the last month's dramatic arrest of Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala. Now, the Inspector General says the deployment of over 20 police officers to arrest Senator Malala at his Nairobi home was informed by reports that the senator had evaded arrest in Kakamega. Now, the Directorate of Criminal Investigations, George Kinoti, dismissed allegations by the Kakamega senator that there was a squad from DCI deployed to assassinate him. Kevin Oshura has the details.
The Inspector General of Police Hilary Mutyambai and the DCI George Kinoti appeared before joint meeting of Senate's Justice Committee and Security Committee on security concerns of Bomet Senator Christopher Langat, Kakamega Senator Cleophas Malala, and their Samburu counterpart Steve Lilengwe. The police boss defending his officers and the manner in which they dramatically arrested the Kakamega Senator last month at his home in Nairobi.
Senator Cleophas Malala had evaded police arrest from Kakamega County. Therefore, the local commanders assessed and appreciated the challenges in getting their senators, hence called for more specialized team to effect the arrest.
DCI boss George Kinoti dismissed allegations by the Kakamega senator that there was a squad from DCI formed and deployed to assassinate him.
As such, though the DCI personnel data could not find any of the alleged purported police officers' names given in the complaint letter. The alleged assassination squad does not exist in the Special Services Unit and by extension the entire Directorate of Criminal Investigations.
A section of senators criticized the manner the police service was dealing with the public.
Kenyans are losing confidence with the police service. And it's really unfortunate, including Mythical Ntore, who is sitting before you, because of the manner in which officers, some of the officers, of course it can't be everyone, some of the officers conduct themselves in regards to investigations, treatment of the public, and also including members of parliament. And it's really unfortunate.
The IG also justified the arrest of Samburu Senator Steve Lilengwe and Bomet Senator Christopher Langat, saying the accusations against the two could have led to bloodshed.
The manner in which they were arrested were informed by the circumstances and the seriousness of the offenses. For instance, the allegation against Senator Dr. Christopher Langat and Senator Dr. Lilengwe Lumbisi were very serious since they were touching on lives of Kenyans.
The IG has in the meantime said Senator Malala's security has been boosted with an additional one bodyguard of his choice. Kevin Washira, Channel 1 News.
And now to the world of politics. The Jubilee party will not field a candidate in the forthcoming Msambweni parliamentary by-elections. Now, the Jubilee party Secretary General Raphael Tuju said the decision to pull out of the by-election was to give ODM party a field day in the spirit of the handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and former Prime Minister Raila Odinga.
The Jubilee Party has pulled out of the Msambweni by-elections despite the party urging interested aspirants to submit their applications a week ago. Party Secretary General Raphael Tuju said the new development was informed by the cordial relations the party was enjoying with the opposition, given that the seat was initially an ODM one.
However, the decision not to engage in the contest is informed by facts prevailing at the moment when we face challenges like the recent advisory by the Chief Justice that Parliament should be dissolved. The decision has been made that Jubilee will not field a candidate in the interest of the bigger picture.
Tuju say the announcement has come in due time as aspirants can seek other political avenues to contest for the seat. The news was, however, not received well by Charlotte Akinyi alias Mariam, who was hoping to run on the party ticket.
Mimi nimesikitika sana, namwambia Tuju atupatie mwelekezo. Na mimi sitoki hapa bila tikiti ya Jubilee. The options are there, lakini option yangu mimi nataka kusimama kwa tikiti ya Jubilee.
Deputy President William Ruto, who arrived at the headquarters moments after Tuju's address, said even though he had a different opinion, he agreed with the party's final decision.
I sympathize with Madam Mariam. I know she had indicated that she wanted to run as a Jubilee candidate. Unfortunately, a decision has been made that we will not field a candidate there.
The Msambweni parliamentary by-election was occasioned by the death of Suleiman Dori, who was elected on an ODM ticket but changed tune midway and became Ruto's ardent supporter. Yusuf Farah, Channel 1 News.
Now, moving on, women leaders across the divide are backing the decision by the Chief Justice to call for dissolution of Parliament amid renewed calls for MPs to chew humble pie and fast-track enactment of the gender bill. Now, in a show of solidarity, women groups are pressurizing the president to dissolve Parliament for failing to pass the law. Now, this comes as the Council of Governors is warning of dire consequences on government processes should Parliament be dissolved. Beatrice Gatonia with the details.
Wednesday morning in the streets of Nairobi, the Federation of Women Lawyers painted the streets purple amid rising calls from women leaders for the president to dissolve Parliament for failing to enact the 2/3 gender bill within the constitutional timelines.
The dissolution of Parliament and holding fresh elections will give Kenyans an opportunity to elect women and provide a space where women and men can compete on an equal platform, free of discrimination and bias. We are in full support of the dissolution of Parliament and urge all stakeholders to come urgently together and promote the compliance of the 2/3 gender rule.
But we are hoping, as we have said, that wisdom will prevail on both His Excellency the President and the Speaker of the House for them to get together to sit and involve women as well. This is an issue that speaks to women, and we are appealing to them to also include women to sit at the table and have an opportunity.
And as they were on the streets, the Council of Governors in a statement said they are alive to the rationale of the Chief Justice to advise for the dissolution of Parliament, but warned of dire consequences on government processes in the midst of a pandemic. At the same time, women under the Center for Multi-Party Democracy outfit argued the judiciary had done its part, calling for the speedy enactment of the law.
We note that the 2/3 gender rule is not about giving seats to women, but it's about creating an inclusive and sustainable society in furtherance to the commitment of the Sustainable Development Goals, the Agenda 2063, and the Vision 2030.
Women leaders from CMD Kenya member political parties strongly support the Chief Justice's advisory to the President, and even though dissolution of Parliament may not be their first choice, if that is the only way that women's rights or constitutional rights can be implemented, so be it.
Amani National Alliance Women League on their part called for dialogue on the best formula to enact the 2/3 gender principle.
Maneno ambayo Maraga amesema inaweza ikaleta utata kubwa katika katiba yetu na uchumi wa nchi nzima. Sisi kama wamama wa ANC tumeona hii jambo ni ya Kenya nzima, sio wamama peke yake, hadi wanaume na vijana na watoto wetu.
The United Green Movement Party Women League has given the executive a 3-week ultimatum to dissolve parliament, cautioning parliament against challenging the advisory in court.
Dissolve the parliament today and within 21 days of this statement and stand to be on the right side of history. Mr. President, you can be that president of Kenya who made justice and equality a reality for all Kenyans, people possible.
The debate raged among political and civil society groups amid mixed feelings.
We need to live, however painful, with what the Constitution says must be done. So I think I want to hope that the President will be advised well, find a way that we can respect this Constitution without creating any instability in the country.
We are proposing kudelete hiyo sheria kutoka kwa katiba. Katiba lazima tutoe hiyo sheria mbaya hiyo. This thing ya 2/3 gender rule will never pass in parliament, I'm telling you. Martha Karua was there, alileta ikashindwa. Mutula Kilonzo alileta ikashindwa. Twala ameleta mara 2 ikashindwa. Hata wakileta mara 20 itashindwa.
This is an issue that can be sorted in an office. So coming to the national media and saying these words, I find it very irresponsible. This can cause a very serious constitutional crisis.
Tayari ndani ya huo mswada wa BBI tumependekeza mfumo ambao utahakikisha kwamba kila wakati tunachagua watu ndani ya bunge, kina mama watapata nafasi yao, vijana watapata nafasi yao, kila mtu atapata nafasi yake. So hii issue yote ambayo unasikia ni kelele, sisi tunakubali kwamba huu ni mwiba wa kujidunga ambao wanasema huambiwi pole, kwa sababu tumekuwa na wakati wa kutosha kuweza kuweka in place a mechanism for the realization of the 2/3 gender rule.
Focus remains on the president, with some calling for changes in the constitution to cure the debate. Beatrice Getonyeng-Etich, Channel 1 News.
And away from politics, Health Cabinet Secretary Mutahi Kagwe says the country has begun to flatten the COVID-19 curve following the drop of positivity rate to below 5% in the last 3 weeks. Now, he, however, warned of a second wave if Kenyans drop their guard and fail to adhere to the guidelines. Now, this comes as the latest statistics show that 130 people tested positive for the virus from a sample of 3,874 in the last 24 hours.
Since the onset of the COVID-19 pandemic in Kenya, the number of confirmed cases has been on a steady rise, as well as the number of lives lost as a result of the pandemic. However, the Ministry of Health is now reporting a steady decline in the number of positive cases for the last 21 days, amid rising hopes the country is on its way to flattening the curve.
We have noticed over the last couple of days, in the course of this month, that except for a couple of days, we have been on a positivity rate of below 5%. The World Health Organization proposes that when you can run a below 5% positivity rate for over 14 days, heading for 21 days, then as a nation, you have begun to flatten the curve.
Health CS Mutahi Kagwe says it is not time to celebrate just yet.
However, let me caution that even as we do so, events elsewhere across the globe indicate a new wave of COVID-19 cases. And we have no choice but to be cautious for that second wave that is always a possibility.
But as Waziri has said, we should not throw caution to the wind, because we can easily reverse in terms of the progress that we have made, as has been witnessed in the continental Europe, where now there's a resurgence of the cases and they are now reimposing the strict containment measures.
According to World Health Organization, before a country considers lifting restrictions, it should ensure there's a decline in cases by 50% over a period of 3 weeks where testing is optimal, less than 5% positivity rate over a period of 2 weeks, decline in the number of deaths among confirmed cases, and a decline in hospitalization.
If you look at the past 21 days or so, our average has been less than 5%, despite a few blips, like 1 or 2 days ago when you had more than 6.8%. But we don't take that alone into consideration. We also look at the number of patients who are admitted for institutional care. And as of today, we have just about 484 patients in all health facilities with COVID-19 disease, from a high of more than 1,200 cases 1 or 2 months ago. We also look at the number of cases who are on critical care. As of today, we only have 14 people in ICU under critical care, 4 of them on ventilatory support, the remaining 10% on supplemental oxygen.
Kagwe, who was speaking at Kenyatta University Teaching and Referral Hospital after a consultative meeting with the Council of Governors on Cancer Management, said that 130 people tested positive for the virus out of 3,874 samples tested, increasing the total corona burden to 37,348. The number of recoveries rose to 24,253 after 106 patients were discharged, out of which 25 were from the home-based care program and 81 from various health facilities. The number of fatalities also increased to 664 after 5 people succumbed. For Channel 1 News, I am Emily K. Bade.
Well, thank you so much, Emily K. Bade, for that report. Now, moving on, the blame game over the procurement mess at KEMSA continued Wednesday, with the Public Procurement Regulatory Authority pointing fingers at the Health Principal Secretary Susan Mochache and KEMSA CEO Jonah Manjari. Now, the authority's Director General Maurice Juma told the National Assembly Committee the duo directly influenced the sourcing of equipment to fight COVID-19.
Parties mentioned in the scam at the Kenya Medical Agency continued pointing fingers at the Ministry of Health, claiming top officials at the ministry are to blame over the loss of billions shillings of COVID-19 funds. Public Procurement Authority Board, while appearing before a Joint Senate Committee on Health and COVID-19 situation, claimed PS Mochache directed KEMSA CEO Jonah Manjari to abandon all other procurements that had been initiated and use a list of companies containing a letter of supplies from her office. Further submissions before the committee indicated that KEMSA CEO erred and breached the procurement law in issuing commitment letters.
This particular case should have had a list, registered list of suppliers from where it should have, borrowed and used in this process, or even borrowed a registered list of suppliers from another government entity. We have not seen those records.
The authority further told the committee that their efforts to probe irregular procurements were subjected to frustrations, even as they decried a strained budget to investigate corruption claims.
We find that entities are not awarding tenders to the lowest evaluated bidder in some cases. They disqualify low bids, and then they go to higher offers without giving sufficient justification why these are happening.
The authority, which says it has launched investigations into the procurement at KEMSA following a directive by the committee, also says 200 investigators are not sufficient to expeditiously probe corruption cases in procurements, calling for additional workforce. For Channel 1 News, I'm Gladys Mungai.
Well, that report brings us to our first break here on Channel 1 News Hour. Now, before we take the break, let's take a look at the comments coming in on our Facebook page, whereby Enos Omothi, you say that you are watching the news, as well as Ruth Masame, you say you're watching live from Nairobi. Kiplangat Kitur, you're watching from Ruaraka. Well, Mainye Momanyi, you say you are watching from Kisii. Well, we take that break now.
When the world changed, it made us go back to the simple joys and love the little things even more, like serving up your best, eating together, and sharing more. Now, We'll take nothing for granted and always remember to taste the simple joys. Coca-Cola. Taste the simple joys.
Next on.
It is highly unlikely that one would catch COVID-19 from food or food packaging. COVID-19 is a respiratory condition and it is mostly spread through droplets.
Data from UNESCO shows that half of learners worldwide do not have a household computer, while in sub-Saharan Africa alone, 89% do not have computers and 82% lack access to the internet. As schools shifted to online learning, one man in Nigeria has found a way of ensuring that students from disadvantaged backgrounds are able to continue learning remotely like their more privileged peers.
How are you doing this morning? So good to see you!
On the next episode,
including all communities in growing the country's food basket, has been a priority in President Uhuru Kenyatta's development agenda. The livestock keepers of the arid lands in northern Kenya, who have now embraced farming, are standing to be counted.
Wakati tunaanza ilimaliza kujenga hii greenhouse, tulianza kupanda haba kwa nyanya.
This week on Project 254.
Shamba hiyo unafaa sisi sana, sababu yake ile matunda yanatoka sisi na peleka soko.
Watch it on Thursday at 8:30 p.m. only on KBC.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
I want to move in with you.
No, no, Sisia, no way, no way, no way.
Why, baby? I like you, you like me. What else do we need?
Stupidity of the highest order. What kind of a man are you?
Sisia, yeah, was in the bondili, Nengalo, Naflawa, and Julia. You know, Michelle, you keep blaming this man. But you should ask yourself, what drove him to me in the first place? And of course, you can agree, beauty is far from it. Jungle B.
Welcome back. Now to the corridors of justice. Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi has been released on a 500,000 shilling cash bail after pleading not guilty to charges of hate speech and offensive conduct. Now Sudi is now a free man after spending 8 days in police custody to allow for investigations into allegations of hate speech.
Outspoken Kapsaret Member of Parliament Oscar Sudi was charged at Nakuru court with hate speech and offensive conduct. Sudi is alleged to have used threatening words captured in social media platforms on the 7th of September that allegedly bordered on hate speech and were likely to spur ethnic tensions. Appearing before Senior Principal Magistrate Lillian Arika, Sudi denied the charges and was released on a cash bail of 500,000 shillings, an alternative bond of 1 million shillings, and a surety of similar amount. Meanwhile, it was a victory for former local government permanent secretary Sami Kirui after the High Court quashed his sentence in the 283 million shilling cemetery land saga. Kirui had been charged alongside the late former town clerk John Gaku. However, Mary Ngede and Alexander Musei will be sentenced after being found guilty. Meanwhile, two web tape directors Mushemi Njunji and Robert Muriithi Muna, who had been charged alongside 16 others, have agreed to testify as state witnesses. The duo were among those mentioned in a 1 billion shillings graft scandal, as the National Hospital Insurance Fund had been contracted to offer revenue collection services to NHIF without proper planning, leading to the loss of 1.1 billion shillings of public funds. The hearing is set for the 18th of November. Finally, Finally, in a cry for justice for victims of police brutality during the COVID-19 pandemic, Haki Africa and Kituo cha Sharia have filed a petition on behalf of 5 victims, who include Hussein Moyo Molte, Joseph Siminyu, Judith Simiyu, Daniel Waidhungi Nganga, Jackton Ouma Ochilo. Among the petitioners is Hussein Moyo, who is the father of 13-year-old Yasin Moyo, who was killed during the enforcement of the curfew without posing any threat to the police. In the petition, the police are accused of enforcing the curfew in the most brutal, unreasonable, and inappropriate manner. They are accused of allegedly shooting innocent Kenyans, lobbing tear gas and merciless beatings. The human rights groups are seeking compensation from the state for the victims, amounting to 220,000 shillings. The human rights groups are seeking compensation from the state for the victims, amounting to 396,220 shillings. For Channel 1 News, I'm Sarafina Robe.
Well, now moving on, President Uhuru Kenyatta has stated that effective multilateral action within a rule-based international system is key to overcoming global challenges, including securing lasting peace and prosperity. Now, speaking at the 75th United Nations General Assembly, President Kenyatta said the world can overcome challenges presently through strong international cooperation. The head of state cited the UN Sustainable Development Goals as a model for multilateral action that capture the global aspirations of ending poverty, protecting the environment, and ensuring prosperity for all. Let's take a look.
The President of the General Assembly, the Secretary General, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, this anniversary accords us an opportunity to reflect and assess the role and relevance of the United Nations and the vision of the UN Charter as we collectively work towards the future we need, the future we want, and the United Nations we need. Mr. President, 75 years on, our world, as we know it today, was built on the ashes of the Second World War. Thanks to the resilience of humanity, the defeat of colonialization, and the establishment of a global multilateral mechanism, we are where we are. This commemoration comes against a backdrop, unfortunately, of a global crisis caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. Undoubtedly, developing and emerging economies have impacted disproportionately, but more importantly, COVID-19 has exposed the global vulnerabilities of the United Nations and of our societies, as well as our economies. In this regard, now more than ever, we are called on to reflect on the words of the UN Charter that urge us to employ international machinery for economic and social advancement of all. It is indeed a call for meaningful international partnerships and multilateral cooperation to build back better together. A call also to the Bretton Woods institutions and other multilateral lenders to be responsive to proposals of debt management so as to create the fiscal space necessary to accommodate interventions to mitigate COVID-19 related impacts on developing and emerging economies. Mr. President, the United Nations is an institution founded on the premise of promoting international peace, bolstering security and human rights, and the advancement of development for all. To this end, the United Nations continues to consolidate efforts and achievements against colonialism, imperialism, poverty, and the exploitation of the vulnerable by the powerful, while upholding human rights and human security. As we celebrate these achievements, the big question is this: is the United Nations fit for purpose? Can we continue with business as usual? Mr. President, it goes without saying that the world has undergone radical changes 75 years on. 96% of our world's population was not born when this institution was created. Global challenges have intensified unprecedentedly. At the same time, innovation and technology have created great opportunities, while at the same time unleashing challenges that would have been unimaginable to the visionaries who created this organization. Therefore, I do believe it is incumbent upon us to rethink how we can build a better United Nations. But in order to build back better the United Nations system, we must ensure that it is closer to the people, more representative of the 21st century, and in line with the spirit of leaving no one behind. We must work towards a United Nations that is better financed and equipped, to be more impactful, to deal with humanitarian crisis, and be effective in the mitigation as well as the elimination of civil and long protracted wars. A multilateral system that directly targets poverty and inequalities as a global priority that requires urgent and global collective action. In conclusion, Mr. President, today's world is distinctively more diverse and complex, but yet more interdependent. The juxtaposition must ignite our collective resolve to act now, but more importantly, to act decisively in solidarity to ensure that the United Nations serves well the needs of the world's people, the people in whose name this great organization was established. I thank you all for your attention.
Well, now on to a separate matter. Migori County Assembly proceedings with Wednesday thrown into a disarray after a section of MCAs threatened to kick out Deputy Speaker George Omamba, who was recently reinstated following a court order. Now, Omamba, who was chairing the session, was forced to cut short the proceedings following the chaos, which also left a female MCA injured. Now, this and more in the County News Roundup. Wednesday morning and the Migori County Assembly turned into a battleground. Trouble started after 5 pro-Governor Obado's MCAs walked into the County Assembly, which was in session, and tried to disrupt the proceedings as the recently reinstated Deputy Speaker George Omamba was still on the chair. The 5 MCAs were allegedly hiding in one of the offices in the Assembly before they made their way into the Assembly and started creating chaos. A female MCA was injured during the melee and rushed to the hospital. Meanwhile, the Interior Principal Secretary Karanja Kebisha has said that elaborate measures have been put in place to deal with any security threat ahead of the 2022 general elections. Speaking in Kisii to assess the county's preparedness to host this year's Mashujaa celebrations, the PS revealed some indicators had since been witnessed which, if unattended to, could cause mayhem in the country.
Please, good people, allow the Ministry of Interior, allow the National Police Service, allow the security agencies to deal with the criminals for who they are, Nawaomba. So we will draw the red lines and we will be very clear that whether you run to your tribe, whether you run to hide under political cover, we will not give you space to continue inciting our people in this country.
Elsewhere, tension has gripped residents of Tura village in Laikipia North following the alleged murder of a herder by suspected bandits believed to be from the neighboring Isiolo County. Irate residents and local leaders condemned the murder of the 36-year-old father of 4
calling on the government to heighten security in the area.
Sasa imetan kuwa kitu tofauti kwa sababu kwa siku ya mbeleni hawa wafamisi kutoka Laikipia, Isiolo and Samburu wamekuwa wakiiba ng'ombe, lakini of recent cases tumeona haja yao sasa imekuwa ni ufamisi ya kuua watu in the name wapate hiyo land.
In Kakamega, a family in Shinoi is mourning after a 20-year-old girl committed suicide by hanging herself. The deceased Selfa Munze, a Form 3 student, is alleged to have quarreled with her brother who was paying her school fees after her parents passed away years back. Machakos Governor Alfred Mutua has told the NC party leader Musalia Mudavadi to stop copying his ideas. Speaking in Machakos town, Mutua said the ANC leader has formed a habit of reproducing his ideas and those of Maendeleo Chapter Party.
Kenya inataka mtu ambaye ni innovative, mtu ambaye ana ideas, mtu ambaye anaona mbali na anaona mengi. Lakini kuna viongozi wengine ambao nikitoa kitu, nikiongea juu ya kitu, wanakimbia wanakichukua, wanakopi, wanajifanya ni yao.
And Kiambu County Government, in partnership with Yara East African Initiative and Alliance for Green Revolution Africa, has embarked on the distribution of free fertilizer in a bid to enhance food production in the county. The 13,000 metric tons of multi-nutrition compound fertilizer will see at least 10,000 farmers benefit.
Fertilizer with micronutrients, and it will not acidify the soil. So the plant will be putting the nutrients together.
Let's talk business, where more than 1,000 Kenyan seafarers have lost their jobs since the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic. Now, more Kenyans in the maritime industry lost their jobs as waiters, cooks and captains of various ships as countries impose travel restrictions to contain the spread of COVID-19. Some of those who lost their jobs shared their plight with O'Brien Kimani. Let's take a look.
Before coronavirus, more than 5,000 Kenyans are estimated to have been working in the shipping industry in different capacity, from seafarers to ship passers. But after the world was impacted negatively by the virus, more than 1,500 people have already lost their jobs. And they are hoping that the situation will get back to normal soon so that it can be a smooth sailing once again.
Before the outbreak of COVID-19 pandemic, Kenya was banking on the maritime industry to generate 2,000 jobs. The government had engaged with giants like Maersk and Mediterranean Shipping Company, who offered thousands of jobs to Kenyans in their extensive fleets. But before the dreams could be realized, the pandemic struck, disrupting global shipping industry.
Since March, I've been home because no ship is in operation, so we can't get our jobs back. Majority of my colleagues, most of them, their contracts were cut short midway, so they had to come back home.
I lost my job because ships were not sailing. We could not. There are some ports which we could not go into, so we kept on hanging around in the sea, and eventually they had to freeze our contracts until further notice.
Habiba Mohammed had a promising job with one of the biggest hotel chains in the country. She quit in January this year after landing her dream job as a ship parser with MSC. However, the promises of a better-paying job, globe-trotting schedule and exposure was shattered in March this year while in the high seas. Another Kenyan, marine engineer Paul Nyaida, was working with another global cruise ship giant in China. He had everything going for him. But one day, while en route to Shanghai, the ship received a signal that they could not be cleared to dock. What followed later was weeks of pain and agony, stuck in high seas and wanted in many countries.
We got lucky, we got accepted in Dubai. Dubai was the only port in the Middle East that was accepting cruise ships. So it was really tough, not knowing whether we would be accepted or not.
Their stories are but reflections of desperation many Kenyans have endured due to the pandemic. According to Idi Musa, the CEO of Mombasa Ocean Agency, though the horizons look promising, the situation in Kenya has been complicated by lack of reagents in many hospitals at the coast.
All the tests have to be taken to Kilifi, Kemri, and then you will take almost a week to get the results. So it's a challenge because if someone was to travel within 72 hours, it's already past 72 hours. So maybe the government should facilitate for the reagents to be found at Coast General. It will be easy for us.
Musa says the decision by the government to make Kenya a crew change port has revived the hopes of an industry already deep in murky waters.
The situation is not all that bad because the government, you realize that it's easing some of the restrictions. So that gives us a leeway to actually bounce back. Though it's not as easy as it used to be, because I know the process will be simultaneously. It will take us time.
For now, as more ships resume operations, Musa, Habiba and Nyaida hope that the tide will lift their boats once again, literally. O'Brien Keman for Business, News Hour.
Now, the increased use of online spaces for work, transactions and learning during the COVID-19 pandemic has led to an increase in cyber attack cases, with phishing ranked as the top global threat. Now, however, Kenya, which has 1,700 skilled cybersecurity professionals, faces a shortage given the growing cases of cybercrime. The 2020 Security Culture Report estimates that Kenya will need at least 5,000 skilled cybersecurity professionals in 5 years.
The COVID-19 pandemic changed the way the world conducts business. Companies moved to remote working, governments and financial institutions encouraged cashless transactions, all in a bid to reduce the spread of the virus. The ballooning of online activity presented yet another problem: more opportunities for cybercrime, and data shows online criminals have been busy. Interpol reports that phishing, scam and fraud was up 59%, with malware following at 36%. Malicious domains were at 22%, while fake news, especially on COVID-19 related information, was at 14%. The 2020 Security Culture Report by Know Before and Culture collected data from more than 120,000 employees across 24 countries to find out exactly how deeply security was embedded into the company culture. Africa on matters security culture is on par with North America, Australia and New Zealand at 73 and leading ahead of Europe at 69. The report further found that cybercrime syndicates are targeting the African continent due to the high degree of digitization, especially on mobile, lack of legal framework, skills gap and a high level of software piracy in the continent at 57%. The report says Kenya lags behind in terms of human resource to deal with cybercrime. The 2020 Security Culture Report estimates that Kenya currently has 1,700 skilled cybersecurity professionals, with about 100 joining annually. The report projects that Kenya will need at least 50,000 cybersecurity professionals to deal with the increasing cases of cyber attacks that mainly target financial institutions. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
Now, on a separate note, the Export Processing Zone Authority is in advanced talks with the county government of Taita Taveta to set up an exporting processing zone in the area. Officials say the area would be ideal for agro-processing as well as for textile and apparel.
There exists a private export promotion zone in Maungu, Taita Taveta County. The national government has been exploring setting up a second one on a public land in Manga areas adjacent to both the Mombasa-Nairobi Highway and the Standard Gauge Railway, promising options for farms to be based at the EPZ to ferry their goods to the port for shipments. Officials from the county government of Taita Taveta and the Export Processing Zone Authority said setting up an EPZ at Manga would help create jobs.
Tulianzia maneno haya pale Voi public participation, tukaelezea wananchi kwamba tunataka sasa tuwe na EPZ zone hapa ili tuweze kufungua nafasi ya ajira kwa vijana wengi na kina mama wengi katika kaunti hii.
Taita Taveta is endowed with raw materials that could be processed at the EPZ in Manga for export.
Katika utekelezaji wa ile ratiba ya rais ya Big Four agenda, mojawapo ikiwa ni ustawishaji wa viwanda na kuimarisha nafasi ya kazi, EPZ ikishirikiana na kaunti ya Taita Taveta inatekeleza jukumu hilo kwa kuhakikisha kwamba tunaanzisha viwanda vya kuzalisha mali hapa.
Currently, the government is undertaking a sensitization program in the area about the EPZ project.
Now, a report by the British Council indicates that the biggest constraint to the growth of the fashion industry in Kenya is second-hand clothes. Now, the report calls for sensitization of legislators and policymakers for them to understand the impact and assess how the situation can be reversed. Now, details of these and more in our corporate briefs.
The report on the current state of fashion businesses in Kenya details major constraints and growth opportunities for the industry, which is among those heavily hit by COVID-19 pandemic. The British Council cites Rwanda, which banned second-hand clothing imports in 2016 in order to support the nascent garment and textile industry. The report by the British Council reveals that the rapid growth of e-commerce, boosted by proliferation of mobile money platforms, has created market opportunities for the fashion industry, with designers running their own stores via social media platforms. E-commerce is also used by designers who sell abroad, especially to Africans in the diaspora. Elsewhere, tea farmers are set to make substantial savings in factory equipment as Tea Machinery and Engineering Company expands its portfolio of less expensive and more efficient machinery. The farm, which is a subsidiary of KTDA Holdings, is now installing an array of equipment such as dryers, tea packers, winnowers, bucket elevators, air preheaters, log splitters, conveyors and chimneys. Temek General Manager Samuel Ngera says farmers will reap from reduced energy cost and maintenance support.
Then it introduces 4 more surfaces for burning, and these more 4 surfaces of burning introduces means that you can burn your wood more efficiently than when you have a round billet.
We will have one of the costs, which is energy, reduced. And once energy is reduced, how we will reduce it is that the firewood that will go to the boiler will be of a lesser moisture content, because the logs will be split, left to cure. The curing is faster, and so it will be a saving to the farmers.
Finally, Equity Group CEO James Mwangi has joined a league of 14 global CEOs who have committed to champion cross-sector collaboration in the creation of a purpose-first economy. In a global call to action, the letter signed by the signatories outlines their vision for a new global economy that is more equal, inclusive and sustainable, resilient in the face of pandemics and other global challenges. The global corporate leaders represent a combined annual revenue of over $100 billion and a combined global workforce of over 500,000. Betty Kiptum, Channel 1 Business.
A memorial monument was unveiled at a cemetery in Brazil, Rio de Janeiro, dedicated to more than 136,000 of the country's residents who succumbed to COVID-19. Now, the monument, named Infinity, stands as a carved oxidized steel sculpture representing spirituality, nature, and the concept of perpetuity, where Brazilian families can gather to honor their loved ones. Now, here are the details of these and other stories from across the globe.
The unveiling of the memorial monument comes at a time when COVID-19 still shows no sign of slowing in the country, with graveside funeral services conducted hurriedly as few family members are permitted to attend. Chris Santos, the architect and creator of Infinity Cemetery, says the memorial monument was launched to help those who are not able to mourn properly or those whose mourning was rushed because of health concerns. Inscribed with the names of some victims, the monument keeps alive the memories of the deceased, with many families coming to pay their respects during the pandemic. Meanwhile, the COVID-19 outbreak is causing setbacks to the U.S. economy amid high unemployment, but the country's rich are getting richer as the pandemic is further widening the racial wealth gap. A report by the Institute for Policy Studies, which studied wealth changes of 643 billionaires, found that their total wealth increased by $845 billion from mid-March to mid-August. This means the cumulative wealth of US billionaires increases by $4.7 billion every day. In contrast, data from the US Bureau of Labor Statistics shows that over 50 million Americans have lost their jobs since March, and nearly 14 million of them are still unemployed. For those employed, their income has dropped by 4.4% on average. Finally, China is seeing a booming demand for rental cars ahead of the 8-day holiday, which includes the National Day and Mid-Autumn Festival in early October. Chinese holiday makers will enjoy an extra day of toll-free policy when they hit the highways since this year's holiday. Since this year's holiday is 1 day longer, the extension has boosted demand for rental cars. According to our car rental company's manager, his business has been greatly boosted thanks to the advantages of traveling in a private car over jamming into the public transport system as the COVID-19 effect persists. Almost half of the company vehicles have already been booked a week ahead of the holiday.
And in the sports arena, Kenya Premier League champions Gor Mahia have resumed light training in adherence to the guidelines issued by the Ministry of Health and Sports ahead of the new season, whose date has yet to be confirmed. This even as sports stakeholders in the country await communication from the Kenyan government on the resumption of football activities in the country. Kogalo has embarked on early preparations as they prepare to represent Kenya in the CAF Champions League, with the preliminary matches set to begin on November 20th.
We can see that the COVID-19 epidemic is flattening. So we hope that it will continue doing that. But our boys are training, mostly non-contact training, and we have made sure that we have all the protocols. We have to sanitize, we have to wash our hands, we have to always have our masks on, when we're not training, that is. But when they're training, of course they don't have the masks. Where we are training, we have 2 fields. We have ample water for cleaning, we have showers, we have toilets, and we have treated water, which the players always must cleanse themselves every time they get out of the training area. When they come back, they must follow those protocols. So we are following them fully, and we hope that none of us actually gets infected by this COVID.
6, 7, 8, 9.
And Spanish giants Barcelona have agreed to let striker Luis Suarez join La Liga rivals Atletico Madrid. Suarez is not wanted at Barcelona, and the Catalans were happy to release him for free, providing he did not join certain other top clubs. Now, the Uruguayan agreed terms on a reduced salary with Atletico after a move to Juventus fell through because of the passport issues. Barcelona chairman Jose Maria then blocked the deal because he did not wish to sell to a Spanish rival. But after the meeting with Suarez representatives, the Catalan club has backed down, with the striker threatening to air his grievances to the media. Moving on, Chelsea Football Club manager Frank Lampard has urged the English Premier League to support EPL clubs financially, to some continue to struggle during the coronavirus pandemic. Meanwhile, Lampard's Blue will host Championship side Barnsley at Stamford Bridge as the Carabao Cup third round fixtures continue. In last night's matches, Manchester United beat Luton Town 3-0, while West Ham thrashed Hull City 5-1.
The Premier League and EFL are in talks regarding a support package after EFL chairman Rick Parry warned that Championship, League One and League Two clubs will lose a combined £200 million if the 2020-2021 season takes place entirely behind closed doors. EFL side suffered a further blow on Tuesday due to the government's latest measures aimed at tackling the spread of coronavirus, which prevents supporters from attending matches. Clubs had planned to admit some funds from October 1st. Elsewhere, Manchester United qualified for the Carabao fourth round after a 3-0 win over Luton Town. Juan Mata put United ahead moments before halftime.
There's a bit of handball about that, and then Williams goes down, penalty. Well, that is so clumsy, so very clumsy indeed. Brandon Williams, no Bruno Fernandes on the field, so it's going to be Mata against James Shea. It is Mata who makes no mistake and gives United the lead just before half-time. Great time to score. Juan Mata's done it.
With substitutes Marcus Rashford and Mason Greenwood wrapping up the win late on in the game.
Greenwood. And now Rashford to finish it. That's that. United safely into round 4. United in the final minute of stoppage time with Greenwood. Greenwood does that so well. What an impact he's had as a substitute. He set up one, he scored another, and that's United safely into round 4, 3-0.
United will face a trip to either Brighton and Hove Albion or Preston in the fourth round. In other matches played last night, Andrei Yarmolenko scored twice as West Ham United thrashed Hull City 5-1. Meanwhile, defender Thiago Silva is expected to make his Chelsea debut tonight as the Blues host Championship side Barnsley. Hakim Ziyech and Christian Pulisic are not available, while Andreas Christensen is suspended after he picked up a red card in Chelsea's 2-0 defeat to Liverpool.
That report brings us to the end of our bulletin tonight. For more news, check out our website at kbc.co.k. My name is Jacky, Wambiru. Our sign language interpreter this evening was Lensa Odingo. Now I live in the good hands of Yusuf Farah with the weather updates. Have a good night.
Residents expect below average rainfall. This is according to the meteorological department in the area, so be prepared for that. My name is Yusuf Farah. Welcome to Channel 1 weather updates. Now tonight, dry weather conditions continue to prevail in most parts of our country, with the exception of the coastal region where there will be showers tonight. In the western region, however, expect rain. Now, Narok residents, tonight your area is the coldest, temperatures standing at as low as 10 degrees Celsius, so be sure to keep warm. In the morning, this is how things will be looking in our country. Sunny intervals starting all the way from the northeastern region, Mandera, Garissa and Isiolo, all the way to the coastal region. Now, for residents of Mombasa and Kilifi, if you are planning to go by the beach for a swim or just a walk, you can do that. However, residents in Lamu, hold that thought because there will be showers with sunny intervals. Residents of Kisumu expect cloudy conditions with sunny intervals. In the afternoon, sunny intervals continue to prevail in our country. Residents of Mombasa and Kilifi, again, go by the beach, take a swim. But for you, residents of Lamu, if you're planning to go by your business during the day, carry an umbrella with you. Kisumu, cloudy conditions continue to prevail with sunny intervals. In the Lake Turkana region, the narrative is the same. As far as the temperatures are concerned in our country, Mandera, highs of 37, lows of 26. Kisumu, highs of 28, lows of 19. And here in the country's capital, Nairobi, highs of 25 and lows of 15. I leave you with the international weather forecast. Do have yourselves a lovely night. And remember, stay safe and keep warm.